Hello, happy Friday, everyone, or I guess Saturday now when you're hearing this. It is right now, Friday, January 26th. You'll be hearing this January 27th or later. We're almost through January. We are almost through a undefeated, a win-filled month for the Edmonton Oilers. How you doing over there, Deebs?
I am amazed. You guys, your Oilers are unstoppable right now.
Yeah,
Even in close games, they seem to be mustering it up and getting goaltending from both Skinner and Pickard, and it's
yeah,
pretty
things are
amazing.
going well. I was talking about this with the Hacks on Wednesday. I think the difference right now is that they're not falling for those trap games. I mean, they are, but they're pulling them out. I think we went to the third period tied with Chicago twice, Columbus, which were definitely trap games. And those are games that historically would be a coin toss. And we're 3 for 3 in those games so far on this streak. So good for us. Hip, hip, hooray.
Yeah, I was looking early in the game last night. I wasn't able to watch the Oilers Hawks, but the shots, you guys only had one shot, like 7-8 minutes into the game. It's like, oh, they're doing it to him again. Stymieing you guys.
Yeah, it's I'm sure anyone who's watching stats knows this, but it's not Draisaitl and McDavid necessarily carrying us. Draisaitl's only pacing for 97 points this year. McDavid's only 120. Your boy Mac or Kucherov might just interrupt his heart streak, but the team is better. If we can play, if the depth can play like this through the playoffs, we might be okay. But that's it's a whole different beast. Vegas is out there winning games without Eichel and Theodore and Aiden Hill too, so it's not,
That's something that we've talked about with the Oilers too, though, is that you can't expect McDavid and Draisaitl to carry you for. Well, they did it for 2 rounds in the year you lost to the Avs in the conference final, and that was Draisaitl on one leg. So yeah, it was depth, scoring depth, and it's not, they've made a few changes, but it's just guys progressing, I guess, and hard to say really, but yeah, it's nice to see. Actually, that was something I was going to ask you, is with McDavid's pace being
human
120 pace is still remarkable, but yeah, is his game any different?
Yes.
Right
Well,
now?
not
Is
his.
like
The whole team is playing different. The centers are playing lower. Is the big thing. There isn't as much cheating. The wingers are playing further down the boards, and the center is coming further deeper in the zone. So there's less fleeing the zone. McDavid is shooting less. I'll say that. I still think he's only at 90% versus the 60% he was at for the first 6 weeks, because he's still not at last year's levels, and I don't think we're seeing his decline. I think he's hurt right now, but if this is us hurt, yippee-ki-yay. If we can play like this as a team, forget the depth scoring. If defensively we can play like this, as in hold teams to 2 goals or less for 14 straight games or whatever it's been, then all it takes is McDavid and Draisaitl going nuclear in the playoffs again. Like, that's the big difference. It wasn't the fact that wasn't enough. It was the fact that our defense couldn't keep it to a 4 goals or less consistently. So if we can play defense, we might be okay. I'd love to see another defenseman brought in, a top 4 guy, and maybe a goalie. But for now, it's going well. Anyways, I guess we're on. Yeah, well, actually, we may as well do the how far are they going to go.
Yeah. Let's play a little game here. Let's look at their upcoming schedule, and let's see where we think this streak will end. if it will end.
Will they lose ever again? Well, the record's 17, right? Where?
Yeah, it's the Pens. I think that was the year after they repeated. It was 93, 94. I was looking that up the other day. But So you got afternoon game against the Preds coming up on Saturday.
and then what? And then what happens?
Then
There's a
there's a
very
break.
long break.
Yeah.
So, I don't love the timing of the break, but whatever, we'll be fine. We've got a fairly easy schedule coming out of the break. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Preds are going to beat us. I'd like to see Draisaitl get his typical 5-point game. The Ducks game might be a trap game. Coming out of the All-Star break, trying to find your mojo again.
Well, Dustal seems to stand on his head against.
He stands on his head against
too.
everyone, man. They need to make him the starter there already. He is such a good goalie. I think if I have to predict, I think they'll be the Ducks. If it's not the Ducks, then I'm gonna say the Stars, which would carry us to what 18 wins. We lose on the 19th. So yeah, and then I mean they got the Bruins, Golden Knights, Kings after that. So I mean we're not hitting 20, but
well, that would be 20 with the Stars because you're at 14.
Yeah,
now,
so
right?
the Preds would be 15. Oh, I'm reading the dates wrong.
16,
Sorry,
17.
it's Preds then Golden Knights. Okay, the Golden Knights will be a tough one. That's the first one after the break. That'll be a tough game, but you know what? I actually love that that's the first game after the break because that's a game they'll have no problem getting up for. That's a team that's a measuring stick game, and I think that we're happy to. Oilers played at a level of their competition, man. It's so frustrating. The Montreal game too, in addition to the Chicago ones and Columbus. So yeah, we might still make it to the Ducks. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was looking at Red Wings or the Stars, but you might get goalied along the way.
Yeah, and I mean Kings are pissed off. You see that Drew Doughty interview?
Yeah. Well, I guess so. What did they have? Like 1 win in 13?
Yeah,
or
1 or 2.
Like that?
Yeah, it's not good. Who do you think he's talking about when he says guys are playing for their points? Who's he pointing at?
He's not talking about Dubois, that's for sure. And so he might be, but Dubois is not getting points. So it's
I get it. It could be him because he's probably pushing for it. But yeah,
I don't know. That's hard to say because you wouldn't look at the usual side. Like it might be a guy like Fiala, who's a bit flashier.
Yeah, Fiala's had a couple bad turnovers,
maybe cheat.
Like really bad turnovers that have led to goals. I think he's talking about Fiala, maybe Kempe a little bit. He's definitely not talking about the core group.
But no, he wouldn't dog on Kopitar. And
Dino doesn't care if he gets a point this decade, as long as he doesn't get scored against. No, he's not that way. Do you think the Kings turn it around without a coaching change?
Well, they started the year so well, right? So it's just you see this all the time, like tale of two seasons.
You don't have to tell me, pal.
And it's you were ready to jump off.
I was on the ship. I just said we needed a new crew.
I know.
I didn't quit the Oilers. That's Witt's gig. Yeah. I said maybe it's
he sacrificed himself.
That's what I said. That I said, you know what? Everyone should be thanking the Ryans here because Witt quit, and I said sell. And you know what I will say in my defense? The purpose of our show is to help you with fantasy hockey, which means targeting players who are going to be guys who are going to help your fantasy team down the line. And, we talk about the NHL quite a bit now. But the guys that I was talking about targeting, the Draisaitl deal I was suggesting was Faber and Wallstead. And I'm not totally sure that's not a huge win for us right now, the way Brock Faber's going, man. He is like the most consistent player on Minnesota. He's got an offensive upside that he teased and he's kept going with. So while I will retract my trade McDavid statement, I love Lyon so much, but man, Brock Faber is looking more and more like a cornerstone player. And if we had gotten I think my initial suggestion was Boldy, Faber, and Wallstead. I don't think it would have got that far, but if you even got 2 of those guys and Faber's one of them, you might be winning that trade. Plus, we don't know if Draisaitl will stand, and he's getting 14 mil after next season. So, like, even cap wise. Anyways, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Tale of 2 seasons. LA.
I don't even know what I said, but the long game on a deal like that is, I think you were trying to rationalize that you were giving everyone some advice on players to look for by.
No, what
saying
I'm
trade
saying is
Draisaitl, McDavid.
our job on the show is to find good players. And when I suggested we trade everyone, I targeted great targets. Those are guys who we might have won those deals even this year. You put Brock Faber on this team, and we are buzzing. Plus, you'd have 7 mil to burn. Go find another winger or another center. Like, we might actually be. I'm not saying do the trade, but I'm saying had we traded it, if the Oilers had said, okay, Ryan Black's a smart guy, let's listen to him. Let's trade Draisaitl for Faber and Wallstead or Faber and Boldy. If we got in Faber and Boldy, I think we're a better team today.
It's possible, yeah, because McDavid could turn
50 goal
Boldy
guy
into
overnight.
a 85, 90-point player.
Now, here's the downside is Fogle doing what he's doing. I think he has 12 points in his last 12 games or something. I don't know that that's happening, but I know that Brock Faber in our top 4 would give us one of the best top 4s in the league, which we haven't ever been able to say since the 90s, 80s. So that's what I was looking for, was how do teams that win in the playoffs win, and it's by having really solid. I mean, look at you guys, really solid defensive depth.
Yeah, it takes some magician GMing to be able to compile a team with solid offense and solid defense.
Yeah,
because something's got to give.
Or you get lucky. You grab an Alex Lyon in Detroit or something, who.
Mm-hmm. But with the Avs, and what I was talking about is like that Devon Toews trade, 2 seconds for him, and he had term left on his contract too, and just the Islanders had no idea what they had.
That was a goofy cup building deal. Well, and for you guys, you look at what's going wrong the last couple of years. Nazem Kadri putting up 100 points. You're getting 100 points out of your second line center, and you have the best top 4 in hockey. You are a cup contender at the end. It doesn't matter. You guys won with Grubauer back there doing a 90% save percentage, and it didn't matter because teams couldn't skate with you. So, sorry,
actually,
who did
it
I
was
say?
Kemper that we
Grubauer?
won the cup with. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it
Grubauer,
was totally
yeah.
Yeah.
Kremper / Francouz. It was a tandem deal.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Goaltending is where you guys kind of eased off of it.
Oh, I was terrified of our goaltender.
Who did you guys trade for Kemper again to Washington? What was? It was just first.
It was a first. Yeah, to the Coyotes.
Kemper went.
Yeah, what happened was Grubauer got signed by Seattle. They gave him that extra year. Avs were going to give him the same deal, maybe 5 mil instead of 6 for 5 years. And then there was Kemper was the only guy left available, and the Oilers.
Yeah,
I think
Oilers
it was the
were
Oilers
after
and
him.
the Avs were.
I thought you guys gave more than the first because it was what you gave in addition to the first that pushed it to your favor. No. Now we got to look.
Maybe, but I vividly remember the Avs having a slow start that year, and it was an unprotected first, and I was terrified.
You traded Connor Timmins,
and then we
Timmins and the first.
Timmins part of that
deal?
It was
Timmins that pushed you guys over, if I recall, because we were also offering a first, and they held tight, and then you guys got him. Yeah. In any event, we'll see. Oilers are looking good right now. A lot of people are talking about who they've beaten, but at the end of the day, that's often been something that's held us back, is not beating teams we're supposed to beat. So even if we just beat bottom 10 teams 15 games in a row, I'm pretty friggin' happy with that.
that doesn't mean much in
No.
the regular season. Like, all these teams are so close, and a team that's going on a roll like the Oilers, those Columbus and Chicago, like that's their make it to the playoff game. Like that, they
Yeah,
want
they
to win
want
that game to
spoilers.
spoil a streak.
Spoilers. Speaking of
Yeah.
spoilers, for you Flyers fans, Owen Tippett has signed a new long-term deal with Philadelphia today, perhaps to ease some of the heat in the Philadelphia market. But he signed an 8-year, $6.25 million contract shortly after putting up a 27-goal season last year, and he's pacing for 34 this year. What a contract for Philly, man. That is such a huge win for that organization.
Yeah, I say that locks up a good player at a good cap hit long term. That's just as simple as it is. He's not your he's getting paid accordingly, but it's just the fact it's spread out. Mind you, he's 25 years old, so he's just starting to break out the last couple of years, just because he was a bit buried in Florida, as he was part of that Giroux trade to come to Philly. But yeah, I like the deal. I think at 6.25, he'll be 30-35 goal guy, and as Michkov comes up and more guys, he adds a little sandpaper.
Yeah, he
in
hits.
there too.
You like
So,
the deal. I love the deal because in 2-3 years, 6 mil is the new 4 mil, and to have a guy like Tippett in your top 6 for 6 mil is just a wonderful. I would take that 10 times out of 10. It's no Zach Hyman contract, but like the more of these contracts you can sign guys who are going to contribute in your top 6 and top 9 too, the better off you are. And Philly's in a perfect spot for this deal because by the time they're serious, he'll be 27, 28 and in his prime and making 6 mil and putting up 35, 40 goals even maybe. That might be pushing it, but he's a good player. That's a great contract. Congratulations, Philly fans. I mean, the guy shoots, 11%. A lot of his points are even strength, like his good even strength player. So good for them.
well, and to do this in the tort system too.
Good point. Good
So
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another guy we touched on earlier, I know I'm a big fan because he has really helped me out. Alex Lyon is absolutely rolling in Detroit. He did get lit up for 5 goals 2 games ago, but yesterday made up with a 34 save shutout, 35 save shutout. This guy is winning me a league. He's cheap for you cap league guys. I mean, it's too late to jump on him in any cap league, I'm sure. I got him after, I think, 3 or 4 games. I thought back to what he did in Florida last year. You could see what was happening in that Detroit rotation. Husso is not a guy who's going to lock down number 1. Reimer was faltering. So as soon as Lyon got a few games, I signed him. And no looking back. He's like the second highest point per game goalie in our league right now. I was talking with another, it's actually Westminster, who owns him in a different league we're in together. And he was saying he was looking to upgrade his goaltending. I said, how do you upgrade Alex Lyon? He said, yeah, I know his point per game is high. I said, no, I understand. I have 2 guys in the minors behind him in Joe Wall and Cam Talbot, and I would not trade them right now. Like, they are my emergency backup plan for Alex Lyon, but you ride this while it's hot, man.
Yeah, he's getting almost all the starts right now. Well, Husso's still hurt. We'll see what happens when he comes back. But
he'll get 1 and 4.
The way that he's, yeah, the way he's keeping Detroit in the race here, like Reimer's forgotten about. You're not gonna win with James Reimer. And Lyon has a brief history, but this is the second time that he's dragging a team into the playoffs. So I think I think it was very astute for you to pick him up. You picked him up early, kind of read the tea leaves there and see that he was probably going to be the guy. And for him to get 5 against and then bounce back for a shutout the next game.
Yeah.
Teams love that. Players love that. They know that it's like, because if you have confidence in your goalie, it just goes so far. So it's So he's gonna take the helm, and I think they'll go as far as he'll take them. Really, and I'd love to see the Wings
For
in the
sure.
playoffs this
It's kind of bonkers. I'm just looking at his stats right now. NHL, it looks to me like other than his time at Yale from 2013 to 2016, between the AHL and the NHL, he's played 58 NHL games since 2017. 58. So most of his experience has been in the AHL. His NHL numbers, I believe, and I'm not doing the math on this, but his NHL numbers might actually be better than his AHL numbers. So his career in the NHL is 2.85 goals against with a 911 save percentage. And that's playing for Philadelphia, Carolina for 2 games, Florida last year, and Detroit. These are not the Carolina Hurricanes or a team like Toronto that restricts those high danger chances. These are teams that give up chances, especially Philadelphia back in the late 2010s. 911 save percentage is good, man. If you can get 911 goaltending all year, you're generally speaking a playoff team. You for
You got
sure
a job.
have a job.
Yeah, that's
He only
for
has
sure. Well, how about like back-to-back years? He's third string at best. I don't even know if he would have started the year as third string in Florida last year, and he comes and takes a starting job, leading towards a playoff push. Bob took that and ran last year, but
we love to see it. He is a heck of an argument for 0G, that's for sure. I'm not a 0G guy. I'm only in keeper leagues other than one nonsense fan league. So 0G's tougher because you don't look at it on a 1 year thing, but I'm leaning heavily towards like 0.2 Gs. Like my goalies right now are UC Saros and Alex Lyon. And Saros, I was quick to trade Timo Meier for him after watching the first, I think I saw 8 out of the first 10 or 11 Jersey games, and I was like, didn't work last year, not working this year. Let's see what we can get for him. I was able to get a Saros deal, so I think that's good, but I wouldn't go out and chase and Saros started slow. I wouldn't go out and chase a Demko and add to Timo Meier. But if I can get a UC Saros for Timo Meier, I'll take that deal. So it's not 0G, but it is like, don't pay a heavy price for G, because there's always these guys, man. There's always these guys that come in. Or we talked about this a few weeks ago, didn't we?
For goalies, yeah. You look at the top goalie list. It's
Connor Ingram.
It's ridiculous, and I just don't. Yeah, Ingram. No, and you got guys like Soros who just aren't having a great season, too.
Yeah, and Joe Wall in Toronto. Like, how many guys drafted Samsonov ahead of Wall? Like, it's so here Joey Decord. Yeah, we did talk about. So here's your top 10 right now for goals on. I'll do save percentage because I think that's a much better indicator. It goes Aiden Hill, Hellebuck, Swayman. So like, those are guys who probably you would have had to draft fairly early. And then you got Lyon, Decord, Demko coming off a bad year, Lindgren, who, if you're really slick, you were looking at him last year, but he's doing 920. Joe Wall, Nedeljkovic, Connor Ingram, John Quick, Semyon Varlamov, Cam Talbot. I'm at 13 right now. Tristan Jarry, 14. Here's a guy who would, been drafted high. Linus Ullmark. So far you've got, 4 guys who would have been drafted high. Then you get Martin Jones. Sorokin, Hofer, there's Markstrom, Bobrovsky, Skinner, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. You notice the names I didn't say there. Like, did you hear Shesterkin's name? Did you hear Jake Ottinger's name? And these are the guys who were top 5. Andrei Vasilevsky, not on this list.
Yeah.
It's now wins is a different story, and wins I think are a little bit more predictable when you know who's starting. But for anyone who hasn't gotten around to it yet, pick up Urson in Philadelphia. He will be the number 1 the rest of the way, and he's putting up very good numbers this year in limited sample size, but stepping into that Philly system, he's going to do well there. So yeah, that's our goalie talk.
Yeah, he's yeah, it's yeah, with Hart being where he's at right now. Yeah, it's Urson's job, and then there's another kid coming
Kolosov.
from Russia for Philly too,
Kolosov. Yeah, I
Alexei
got him.
Kolosov. So
I know Kolosov.
yeah,
He's good.
6 foot, goalie, 22, but he's having a great year in the K. He's signed to the Flyers, so he could come over because he's on loan right now. So he could come over at the end of the season this year.
Well, who's
But if he did, I would imagine they would put him
who's
in the A.
forgive me, who's the guy who got drafted to the Army when he tried to come up? Not Prospect.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it
Ivan Fedotov.
Fedotov?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's more going on with him. The IHF said he had a valid contract at the start of the year. I saw some news this week that really it cleared up nothing. It was just still the same thing where it was his contract is valid. But there was word coming out that he still wanted to come over. So he would be another guy to keep an eye on. So the Flyers are going to be interesting. That number one spot's probably up for grabs for the next few years, which kind of leads us to our next topic. And I will preempt this by saying I'm not going to assume anything while we talk about it until February 5th when the police make their statement. But the World Juniors infamous 5 or 8 or however many it's going to be have been asked to turn themselves in to the Kingston Police? No, it's London Police. Yeah,
London.
And there have been some players leaving their teams. Now, the one guy I will say is Fermenton has left his Swiss team and is headed over to Canada, presumably. But you've got some guys leaving their teams. What is the likelihood that we see any of these guys in the NHL again? And I won't even for the ones who were involved. We know there was a story that there were some guys in the room. We know there was a story that one guy showed up with pizza and turned around and left, and good for that guy. But for the guys who were involved, what's the likelihood we see them play NHL games? Whether it be suspensions, lifetime bans, prison time, and just blacklisted.
I guess my question to that is, would the caveat be that they are actually
yes? Well, for sure, it would have to be,
or not?
Yeah, if they're found innocent, they play tomorrow. Can't.
Yeah, or if there's not, innocence is whatever. If there's not enough evidence to convict, or I think it's going to. From what I've watched, and I'm not assuming anything either, but was it the Fifth Estate? I watched a 45.
Oh, you watched that? I haven't seen it yet. Yeah,
they break it down. Yeah, I got 10 minutes left, but it outlines it a lot. I feel like it's not going to be blanket. Everyone's under the same trouble right now. There's they could talk about player one that initiated everything. He's going to be in the hottest of water. And then, I don't want to go into too many details on it, but to answer your question, if there's conviction of any sort of being involved with this, I can't see whether it's an official lifetime ban, or they have to try to get reinstated once they're free and clear. But I don't see anyone ever touching these guys.
I'd love to say that I agree with that, but I do think that the higher end players, if they are involved,
but who's a higher end player on there?
If Carter Hart's involved and Carter Hart gets convicted and Carter Hart is out of jail in the next year or two and allowed to play by the league, I think he'll get signed. We've seen it already, man. You've seen this before. That's why I think it's important that maybe I would hope they would get blacklisted, but I don't think they will. I would hope the league just makes it a non-issue and says never again. Go play overseas. because it would be nice. It would be nice for them to get a win.
I
You think about all the issues that the NHL has been wrong on this year, and not just wrong, but they do the exact opposite of what the right thing to do is. So the two things that come to mind are the Marc-Andre Fleury mask and pride tape and pride jerseys. So the Marc-Andre Fleury, he had a First Nations heritage kind of painting on the back of his mask, and they said he couldn't wear it, not even for warm up. Well, he did, and they said they were going to slap him with a big fine, and they didn't because social media torched them. Pride night, we can have a military night, but you can't show any sign of pride, and a lot of this is because of the heat that these players, namely, I'll say Provorov and was it Eric Stahl? Reimer was a big one,
I believe.
They took a lot of heat for not participating, and that was, it's your right to not participate. I think social media is going to give you heat no matter what. Their response was to kind of cancel pride of any kind, and now you've got Connor McDavid putting pride tape on and saying he supports guys, and it's just the wrong way to go. So I would love to see the NHL get it right here and just say, these aren't the type of guys who are going to be in the league. And I'm aware of the stories from the 80s. I'm aware of, the limo in Detroit. I've read these things. This is recent enough, and there's proof.
It doesn't make any of those any, like there's a, some of the stories that I've read after this came out, and I think someone documented through a spreadsheet of all the sexual assault acts that have happened through NHL players. And I was like, what?
Really?
Him? He did what? He did what with an underage? What? And so, like, of course, it makes none of that right. It's just the time wasn't privy to be able to, and it was just a different era of like punishment.
Well, and those types of crimes often were brushed away, and this one almost was. They almost had it paid off, and it almost went away. The team Canada had a fund for this sort of thing, like the type. Remember, they had to like clean house at Team Canada because they had a misbehaving children fund. Wait
till you see the funds that Team Canada has when you watch that Fifth Estate. They got like $153 million sitting in their coffers,
like for this type of thing,
like. In general, and like you got the women's hockey team and the sledge team all under Hockey Canada are sitting here and be like, well, we don't feel the support from Hockey Canada financially, and they're giving like gold medal rings to board members that are worth $3,000 a pop and all that, guys that aren't even on the team. Yeah, it's that organization was a mess. If it wasn't as I don't want to say legendary, but just as important to us Canadian hockey fans, it would have totally just been dismantled and just start over, rename, rebrand, everything. Because it's just they've dropped the ball so much here, and now it's all coming out, and be like, oh, you guys are just like a really shitty organization.
Did they learn from Epstein? Like, what's going on here? Like, they're taking notes? Pretty gross. In any event, I would like to see this handled the right way by the league. And that, of course, is assuming that there are convictions, because that's, innocent until proven guilty. Anyways, we'll talk.
Well, and that's an ultimate leadership move for the NHL to be like, this is unacceptable. And the one positive that you can take out of this World Junior story, or the multiple World Junior stories, is fathers are going to have these conversations with their sons that are like 13, 14 years old. And it's just be like, no, you respect women. You don't put them in situations, you don't, and so it's going to, it creates a bit of a talking point for parents to be able to talk about that, where these kids probably weren't given that.
I would love to believe ever. That. I think that it takes a certain kind of entitlement and family to have a kid who does this sort of thing. Did you see the Beaverton headline? Hockey Canada sexual assault scandal, a real shock to anyone who has never met a Canadian junior hockey player. That's painting a lot of kids with the same brush, but it's not entirely unearned. The notion, we're going to get down a rabbit hole here. I'll say my last thing will be that hockey is very much a well-to-do person's sport, and I think that is a big part of why we see stuff like this. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see. I mean, I think it'll get better. Hazing is a part of this conversation too. There's a lawsuit for $15 million in the OHL right now. A guy talking about the Q? Yeah, so it's
or Shikutami.
The things that this. It's so
some of that
bad,
stuff is nasty. I played junior hockey. I agree. Junior hockey guys they could be gross.
What's your worst story?
I didn't
socks,
have a bad
crackers. What are we talking here?
No, just at parties and just like just how they would treat girls.
Nothing happened to you in terms of hazing.
No, I actually had it pretty easy. Actually, no, I came in halfway through the season. I got called up, so I didn't have to do like the whole rookie party and everything like that. So I kind of got to bypass that. They had the next year it was Edward Colt 45 hands. So they taped Colt 45s, one to each hand. And so you have to walk around with that.
And you know what?
That was about it.
I think that's fine.
So,
I was taught. Yeah. You read about the Bruins and how Chara eliminated hazing. And I actually didn't know this until I think yesterday I read it. They don't even do the rookie lap in Boston because it's considered part of hazing and they zero tolerance. Now, it's easy to say, well, the rookie lap and Colt 45 hands. I agree. That seems like it's all in good fun. But the problem is you always get the people who push it and push it and push it. And at some point it goes from, that's pushing it to you're over the line, but you're not that far ahead of the worst thing you did beforehand. And it just leads to this disgusting culture. And yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing we're seeing less of it. There's no need for it. Anyways, we talked about that for a long time for something we weren't going to talk about. Zach Parise signed in Colorado. That's not bad.
Nice.
What's not to
I like it. Yeah.
You got a guy you got
nice
to replace over there.
Yeah, nice and cheap. Fourth liner.
You think Nikushkin's coming back this year?
Yes,
he's coming back this
year.
I'm not saying I'm not for it.
Yes. Well, no, I shouldn't say that.
I'm skeptical.
You're very skeptical.
I am skeptical. We talked
that this is not a pattern.
We talked about this last week, didn't we?
Some
with
shit.
The guns. Yeah. I think that he's, the second incident in 10 months is alarming. I hope he takes long enough away that this sticks. I'll say that. And I don't know that 2 months is long enough for that. But, we'll see. Okay.
But yeah, Parise on that. Good. They knew Nuke back.
He has 2 goals tonight.
Such a great year there too.
He's got 2 goals.
Does he have 2 goals already? Jesus, so good. He's who I got to see for the Stanley Cup. I got a picture with him when he was in Calgary.
Well, how about that, Mr. Big Game? Hey,
how about that?
He's
just name dropping. Logan O'Connor,
it is
no big deal.
Good for you. I'm glad you got to meet Logan O'Connor. All right.
Contract year
you
for
think
him
he'll
too.
Stick around?
And, yeah. I don't know. Like, because he's nothing more than a third liner, really, best case on a decent team. So he might get a little Chicago
2.5 mil
pay bump
instead of 1.5 mil
for a few years.
Yeah.
So it's like Chicago's kind of throwing a few bloated contracts out continuously, but keeping them well within reason. Waiting for your.
Are you talking about like Foligno?
Bedard time. No,
Oh,
Mrazek.
yeah. I don't think that any agent worth a damn can hold up any deal Chicago's signing right now in a negotiation. Though, like that's a cap floor contract. Those are all cap floor contracts, and they're all pointed at the same year.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going, well, Nick
Yeah.
Foligno got $4 million for 2 years, because then William Nylander just got underpaid by about $37 million per year. Like,
I would say for Logan O'Connor, though, like with the Miles Wood contract that Colorado signed last year, the 6 years, 2-ish mil a year, he'd be a good candidate for 6 times 3 kind of thing.
Jesus.
Consistent.
6 times 2 if you're giving him 6. I feel like you could do it 2 times 3.
No, he's a
Is he?
much better player than a $2 million player.
I need to watch.
Yeah.
I need to watch more.
Great penalty killer, great wheels. Good shot. Seems very likable, good locker room guy. So, like, if you're giving him term,
3, hey?
if he's giving you term,
well, there you go. All right, we are going to get ahead of things, get ahead of ourselves. The NHL trade deadline is March 8th, and we are going to have a discussion about the trade deadline. It's so early for this still. We were going to talk about this a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about it today. We don't have a lot else to chat about. We still got some time to kill. Flames trio. So that is Hanifin, Lindholm, and Tanev. Where do I see them going? I think Lindholm. I will go Avs and Jets. I'm saying the Avs for sure. I could see him in Vancouver.
Because they do have the lotto line.
I mean, Pius Sutter's doing big things right now, but I think if you consider yourself a cup contender, it's not because Pius Sutter is your second line center. So I could see them making a push for him. And then, I would say that in any talk of any player with any kind of offensive ability and a bit of a two-way game, you have to consider the New York Islanders. Yep.
For Lindholm? Well, they already have Barzal and
I think Barzal, I could see them moving him to the wing. They're constantly looking for those types of players. And it wouldn't shock me at all to see Lindholm end up in New York, just because they're always in on these guys. They always are. So those are the teams. What do you say?
I think the Jets. I think the Jets are poised to make a splash here. This is, the best team that they've had in ages, and it would be kind of a similar move a few years back when they picked up Stasny at the deadline. But yeah, they do have that hole on the second line center. They got Nemesnikov, playing second line center there. So if they could slot in Scheifele, Lindholm, Lowry, that's a very solid top 3 line centers there, and they have the pieces to trade without wrecking their prospect pool. Like, their first is going to be late, and they have some decent forward prospects that the Flames would probably like to get their hands on. You got a guy like Lambert, who's doing well in the A this year. He's got almost point per game in the A.
He's not the first
Chaz
guy you're
Lucius
asking for from Winnipeg.
No, but that's where the negotiation will kind of fall through, right? Like the Flames would probably lean more towards going for McGroarty. Yeah. And then if that doesn't happen, then Chaz Lucius, and then they probably settle on Lambert plus another pick.
Yeah, Lambert in their first probably gets it done. Hanifin, that's a tough one, man. That's every team in the league wants Noah Hanifin. I would love to see Noah Hanifin on our second pairing with Nurse. Or Tanev for that matter. Those are both guys who I got all kinds of time for. Where would Noah Hanifin fit best? That is Toronto has been brought up in that conversation. They could use a guy like that. Who else? Dallas.
It's a tough call. Good, like you said, everyone could
Hannafin
use
stuff.
them.
I think the thing with Hannafin will be if there's an extension attached. If there's an extension attached, you could see he might be the piece they're going to get the best return for, because I have no problem signing trading Hannafin to a $7-8 million contract. I don't think anyone is comfortable paying Lindholm the 8.5 plus he's rumored to want right now. So Hannafin to me seems like the guy who they're going to get the most for. Yeah, I think he could go anywhere, man. He could, like, Dallas. He'd be perfect in Dallas. Dallas has all the pieces in the world.
Even Kings.
Oh, that's funny.
Kings
I was just going to say the one team I wouldn't say is the Kings.
Well, they're going to start getting
but
so
D isn't what they need. They're still a D or two heavy, I think. But I mean, maybe, who knows?
Tampa, if Tampa hadn't spent all their
on Tanner
capital, yeah.
They still got
same
Howard.
with the Panthers too.
Howard could get them a piece.
Well, and they got Huutalainen.
They got Duke, who's playing well in Michigan this year. So they've got some guys if they wanted to. They'll probably get outbid, but that's an interesting one. Tanev, I'm going to go ahead and just say Vancouver because I like the story.
Yeah, heading back to Vancouver would be nice. It's so tough when you look at the standings and you look at the East. It's like there's so many pretenders.
Are there?
In there, I see. Well, look at the Metropolitan Division. So after the Rangers and the Hurricanes, like the Flyers, the Devils, the Islanders, the Caps, the Pens, the Blue Jackets. Like I don't see any of those teams making any noise
I don't know about
this
that.
season.
I would disagree with that. If the Devils got a goalie, they would skyrocket. I can absolutely see New Jersey making a play on a goalie because that's all they need. And don't forget,
as long as it's a long-term play on a goalie, because I just don't think that I don't know if they're in a position to be going for it.
Yes, I agree. To me, you're talking about UC Saros.
No.
UC Saros to Jersey makes all the sense in the world. New Jersey has the type of assets that Nashville typically desires in a trade like that, as in they have some high-end potential defenders, and Jersey's going to love that. Speaking of Jersey prospects, have you seen what our St. Gritziak's been doing lately? Man.
Yeah. He started off slow, but dude is on
He's
fire.
like 1.5 points per game over his last 10 or 12 games or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous. He's a guy that could be moved in a deal. Like, if Jersey decides they want Saros, they can get Saros. No problem. And they'll still have friggin' shells left to fire in their prospect pool. So I wouldn't include them in the pretenders because I'm not so quick to take a team that I thought would be a top 2 team in the East this year and say they're done. Their goaltending's done. It's cooked. But if they get a goalie, Jack Hughes comes back after the All-Star break. That's not a pretending team to me. That's a competing team. And they're only 10 points behind? No, they're
well, wild card. They're only 4 points out of the wild card, so it's they're still right there.
Only,
but
12 points out of second place in the East. So only 12 points, but get that team a goalie and look out. I agree that Philly's a pretender. Islanders are the Islanders. I think Tampa's, aside from Kucherov maybe carrying them, I don't think Tampa's going to be the team they were before. Panthers are probably outperforming expectations this year, and I don't know that their long season last year is going to help them have another long season this year. Bruins are the Bruins. Yeah, it's my pick right now, if I had to pick out of the East, is still Carolina. I think they'll figure it out. I think this is their year, and I also think that they're going to be a buyer because last year they sat and watched.
Yeah, I could see them picking up some help up front. I don't know if they necessarily need it on the blue line, but they might take a flyer back and take Hannafin back in the fold.
Or Lindholm, or some of these other guys we're going to talk about. The next guy is Jake Gensel. I was actually having this conversation today with one of the guys in our league about what the Penguins need to do with Gensel. Here's the question: do you think Dubas would be interested in a rebuild if he would be allowed to do it by ownership? Or do you think that he signed in Pittsburgh because he saw another Stanley Cup coming?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think he was given the green light to go for it for 2 more years or however long Sid wants to go for. Grabbing Carlson. I guess, yeah, I'm just rambling here, but to answer your question, I think the competitor in him would love. He's seeing that it's not working, and I think if he could trade all these guys,
yeah, like okay. Here, let me rephrase the question: is Pittsburgh going to trade Yeager? Because to me, they're either trading Gensel or they're trading Yeager. It's one or the other.
Yeah, well, it's so sad to watch the Pens go down like this. I just have such great memories of just watching like opening round playoffs and Sid and Malkin and the old Pens crew, and they're just not.
No,
they're not good enough.
Not good enough.
So,
and it's funny because their goaltending is actually outperforming expectations, and the rest of the team is not. Okay, so the question was, who's getting traded, Gensel or Yeager? Who's getting traded, buddy? Or is it neither? And you think they're? I think they're
going to trade Gensel.
Boy, he would.
Yeah, I said it early in the year. I said no, but yeah, I think they'll see what he'll want on the open market, and that he's probably the best available forward. And so you can get a first and a prospect and maybe flip that for something else. I don't know. In the offseason.
I mean, if they trade Gensel, he'll get them an absolute haul. He'll be number one on every trade list. Stamkos, he's staying. Tarasenko, it's rumored Tarasenko doesn't want to move. So LA second. Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. Wow, you put the Avs are going to pay 2 seconds for Sean Monahan. They paid that much for Devon Taves.
They did pay that much for Devon Taves. That might be like a second and a third though. But if they're thinking that he could do well on that second line center spot, then I think that might be not a bad move. And if he performs well and he likes it there, he might re-up for that $4 million. And if you could get Montreal to take Ryan Johansson's contract back in that deal, you probably do the 2 seconds.
I think they should aim higher than Sean Monahan, but you're the Avs fan. Anthony Duclair, back to Florida?
Well, what's higher? What's higher than him? Like Lindholm and him are having almost identical seasons this year.
Yeah, Monahan has the injury history. Monahan's been getting better ice in Montreal than he should be getting anywhere else. He has bounced back a fair amount. I'm not ready to rest my Stanley Cup hopes if I'm Colorado on him. And Lindholm, man, he is so checked out. Like, I was watching the Flames last night, and it's just like that guy wants out. Like, he wants nothing to do with that team. He's waiting to be traded. I think Lindholm has more to give. But that's fair. Centers are always at a premium. Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, Sean Monahan. I'm just going to bring this up here. Sean Monahan is doing... I know that he had a hat trick the other night. So 2 years ago, he put up 23 points in 65 games. Last year, a respectable 17 points in 25 games. And this year, he has 34 points in 48 games. He's a -8. I don't know. I'd have a hard time paying up for Monahan, but as if I can see him being one of the last guys who gets traded, and they'll get more because of it.
Yeah, and I think they'll hang on to him and get the best value, of course.
Your dog really has to
But
pee, hey?
yeah.
All right, we'll get going here.
Well, I'm in an
I can hear
apartment
that.
too, so I can't.
Adam Henrique, he's getting traded for sure. They're boosting his value on the power play right now. Where to? Vancouver again, Colorado again. Henrique's a guy I'd feel more comfortable with over Monahan. Eberle, I'd love to see in Toronto or in Edmonton.
Wouldn't that be nice? Is he a UFA this year too, or no?
He's still got
No.
some time on his contract. I feel like let me just double check that. And then Kuzmenko, there's an interesting one to me. He's not being utilized in Vancouver. Oh, I'm sorry. Ebbs is a UFA. Yeah. So, I mean, he should be on the move. Let's go Edmonton. Kuzmenko is a deal to me. If Pittsburgh is going to move Gensel, Kuzmenko makes a ton of sense. A reclamation project a little bit, but you keep Malkin happy. You're not trading him. Like, obviously, it would be for Kuzmenko. And let's say they can get maybe they get Lekermecki and Kuzmenko. That's a trade Sid could sign off on. Sid, Kuzmenko is going to help us push this year. Next year, Lekermecki's coming over. He can be Jake Gensel for you. We need to look forward. Crosby can't hold this team hostage until he retires. He just did it on a questionable contract with Malkin. Letang's deal is I like the Letang deal more, but they're neither are good contracts for that franchise going forward. You can't just sit there and be like, okay, Sid, well, we just offered Dubas this massive deal, but I guess you're the GM till you retire. What do you want us to?
He needs to come and join his buddy.
Oh, Connor
in Denver.
Yeah, that would be something else.
Well, and that's I remember last year I proposed a trade. I think it was on HF or something, but it was Byram and who the heck else was it? Byram a first and forward we had
not even
two.
close. Not even close. If you're prying Sidney Crosby out of Pittsburgh, it's like 2 or 3 firsts and your former top 5 player. And I would think you'd want someone a little more sure than Bowen Byram. But I don't disagree
at the time,
that if Sid was moving, Colorado would be on his list of acceptable locations. Having said that, Crosby likes to win, so I think there's probably a list of 5 teams he'd accept to trade to. 6 maybe.
Yeah, I don't think he would hold it hostage for that small of a return, but I think there would be enough of something there that Colorado would be like, "Okay, we'll give you fair value. We're not just going to offer you a first and a second for him."
Yeah, no, I just think that.
But they don't need Byram either. That's the other thing. The only solution is if they're going to blow it up.
Yeah, well, and they really kind of need to. Carolina could make a heck of an offer on Sidney Crosby, and I think he'd love to play there. Okay, last guys we're going to talk about is news came out today. The Patrick Laine and Ivan Provorov. What a move that was! How come this guy still has a job? Are rumored to be on the block and not wanting out. They're on the block in Columbus. What do you pay for Patrick Laine right now? Not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I think I've seen enough to know that he's just he's temperamental when it comes to producing, and he seems to say, he's growing into saying the right things, but he's just not performing at the level that he should be or what he's paid to do. And I don't think he stirs the drink in other areas of the game to be worth that much. So he at this point he's a reclamation project.
$8.5 million.
So
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And he's a winger. And so I don't know who's going to be paying that.
I got it. I got it.
Does he just have 1 year left on his deal?
I know who's going to pick up Patrick Laine. Do you know who it is? What would be the
No.
best spot for Patrick Laine for him to actually reclaim that career? And a team that would actually do it. You know the answer to this. And a team that should probably try to keep their franchise player happy.
Who's got a
Come on. Who needs a winger? What team does Nick Foligno play power play 1 on?
Oh, you're going to throw him on?
I am sending him to
Bedard,
Chicago because his contract's perfect. He's got 2 years after this at 8.7. I was wrong. 8.7 mil. Bedard needs someone to play with. Like, you can't send this kid out for the next 2 years and say, we're rebuilding, we're going to get there, and just let him do nothing. You can still lose, but you got to give him a chance to score 90 points. You got to give him a chance to score 100 points. You got to get something there. Laine is perfect because Laine will score 50 with Connor Bedard. Laine will have value with Connor Bedard, and you flip him is what you do in a year and a half. You put him on the market as a 50-goal scorer again, and you go and get the guys that, you give the ice time to Nazar and whoever else they're, whether it's Demidov or one of those guys, Yzerman. He's perfect. He's a perfect fit. You're welcome. Geez, I'm blanking on Chicago's GM's name. The guy who caught, Davidson. Did you see the clip with him at the draft when some street team was asking like randos NHL questions and they got him?
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Like,
and as for back on topic, as for Ivan Provorov, forget about it. They never should have picked him up in the first place. We talked a fair bit about this back in September. Do you think Jarmo Kekalainen makes it past day 3 of the offseason as GM of Columbus?
I think all Columbus fans are hoping that let's just move on. We've loved Jarmo, but it's just not working.
Well, and how many whiffs in a row do you get now? Like, when was his last home run? You think about the Laine deal. You think about the coaching, 3 bad coach decisions in a row. One of them embarrassing as heck. The Provorov deal is bad. The Severson deal is bad. You've set the organization back and blocked guys like Jiricek and to a lesser extent Blankenberg from developing. It's all bad.
And the Babcock blowing up and after you see how the season unfolds, that blowing up in your face. If I was the owner, I'd be like, and now we have I don't know much about Pascal Vincent, but it's like we blew our shot to get a good coach this year.
There's still one out there.
By
Woodcroft would be a
locking
great
up.
fit for them, but yes, I agree. Though, like I said, I can't remember outside of drafting the guy who fell into their laps, the last Jarmo move where I was like, kaboom. And I'm sure there is one, but generally stuff like that sticks with me, and I cannot think of the last Jarmo move where I was like, nice, well done. So I could look it up, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Okay, today's gonna be a short prospect day. I think we're both a little burned out on prospects after the World Juniors. We're just copy pasting some news articles here. Olen Zellweger got called up this week and looked very good in his first game. That's exciting. A little bit toned down in the next game, but we're watching that very, very closely. Keep your eye on Olen Zellweger. I've already picked him up in quite a few leagues if I didn't have him already. And away we go. The big news this week is Bob Mackenzie's mid-season list dropped. Now, I guess what I want to talk to you about is fantasy hockey. You okay to talk some fantasy hockey, bud?
I think that's kind of what we're going to get to with
that's
this,
right.
with this draft here.
Let's assume
for this draft list
that the season ended today, and that you and I could reorganize this list all we wanted. Would you prefer to reorganize our own top 10 for fantasy purposes, or take this as gospel, apply the teams to it, and say who we're taking where? Let's do one of those two things.
I would. So say this happens, and then we take the bottom 10 teams, and then we pick who we
say.
who we
then
like
we'll do our
best
top 10 from
out of
that.
that.
So right now,
Yeah.
second last is the Sharks. So the Sharks get Stileyev. Fourth last is Minnesota, so they get Yzerman. Demidov is going to the Kraken. Or do you just want to do our own top 10?
Okay.
All right.
Let's do that. Let's do with it happening, and then see how we would.
Let's just do a top 5, because I don't think we're going to be able to keep track of 10. All right. So you got Celebrini to Chicago, Stileyev to the Sharks. You've got Levy Shunov to the Ducks. They're not taking a team in. You've got Yzerman to the Wild. You've got Lindstrom to the Flames. You've got Demidov to the Kraken. You've got Dickinson to the Coyotes. You've got Hellenius to the Blues. You've got Pereke to the Predators. And you've got Berkeley Catton to the Kings. And then a little further down, because I'm going to pick them, the Dallas Stars are taking... Oh, I'm in the conference. Ugh. All right, we got to start over. Celebrini to the Hawks. Stileyev to the Sharks. Levy Shunov to the Ducks. Ottawa's getting Yzerman. Columbus is getting Lindstrom. Oh, Demidov is going to the Sabres. Yeah, because they need more of that. Dickinson to the Canadiens. The Wild are getting Hellenius. Pereke is going to the Flames. The Pittsburgh Penguins are getting Catton. That's a nice fit. Seattle picks up Connolly. Yamachuk goes to the Coyotes. And Zeev Byam goes to the Washington Capitals. A little further down. Well, we're only doing top 5. Who's your top 5 out of those? Because we like to base it on teams. So for me, I'm taking Celebrini 1. I'm taking Demidov 2. I'm taking Yzerman went to Ottawa. Man, that's not a good spot for him, but I'm taking Yzerman 3. I am taking Zeev Byam 4, because I gotta put my money where my mouth is. And then I'm taking Lindstrom at 5.
Yeah, I think I would go the same, except I would take Lindstrom at with Columbus to play with Fantilli. That's nice. And then who was
10 was
10?
Berkeley Catton to
10
the Penguins.
To the Penguins. I like Catton.
Catton's fun. He'd be my number 6. I mean, if I'm ranking these guys overall fantasy pre-draft, it's pretty close to what I just said. I think Yzerman. I do think Yzerman's going to drop in this draft. I do think Demidov is going higher than he's currently ranked, unless something funky happens in Russia. And I think Byam's going to move up this list. And, Tidge again has been... Is it Tidge? Tidge has been playing very, very well. I have a friend sending me clips of him every darn day, and I'm just like, that guy, I don't know how he's ranked at 16. This draft isn't good enough for him to be ranked at 16.
Yeah, and 55 points in your draft year. It's the dub, but the pedigree, and I was just
going to say, feel good story of the year. He gets drafted by the Flames.
Yeah,
they need to pick up
guys in here. Guy that I found interesting that wasn't in the top 30 was Lane Hudson's brother.
He's been in the second round all along. They're still, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they haven't learned, but I've watched some under 18 games, and he's great. Like, great shot, very similar player, just a little bigger.
Another guy who I think is going to skyrocket up the rankings is Liam Greentree. He's got 57 points in 39 games in the O, and he is hella impressive. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a guy who, even if he wasn't putting up that kind of points, if he was only a point per game in his draft year, he's the type of player GMs fall over themselves to draft. So I think he might crack the top 10. and I think guys that we might see fall out of this is I could see Hellenius dropping out of the top 10. I'm not sure that the offensive upside is there.
Zeev at 13 just seems like I don't quite know, because like you watch him play the eye test. He was great at the World Juniors. He's putting up historic
Stupid
numbers in the NCAA for draft eligible, and yeah, and so for him, but it's just such a heavy D draft, and I think they just, like, you look at Zane Pereke, he's crushing the O too. Yeah, I don't think he has the same defensive acumen as
No, I
as
think
Zeev.
what we're seeing here is that there are different kinds of defensemen in this draft, and their upsides are so all over the place. I think that Byam has an upside of who's a guy I would use as an example for him. Quinn Hughes, I think, would be a taller Quinn Hughes would be a fair comparison. And then you've got Salayev, who could be Chara. And then you've got Dickinson, who has a much better two-way game, but the offensive upside isn't nearly what these other guys have. So it's like, do you want the home run guy who could push for 100? Because there's probably 2 or 3 of those in this draft. Or do you want the guy who you can put out against other teams' top players? Because there's a couple of those in this. Or do you want the guy who is Duncan Keith and is going to be able to do whatever it is you ask him to do? Because there's a couple of those too. The fantasy drafts on these D, I don't think you'll see a single fantasy draft where the order of D drafted matches the NHL order, because there's just no way that Zeev Byam is going behind Sam Dickinson. Like, it's not going to happen. And quite frankly, I don't think Salayev is going ahead of Byam in a fantasy draft either. So it's
No, not with the Russian factor and all that. I have, for fantasy, I have Levshunov, Zeev Byam, and Perek being like 1, 2, 3, and then it's just take your pick from that. And you want the size, you want the two-way with Levshunov, or you want the home run with Zane, or you want the steady Eddie can do everything.
And I've said all along, I think that Zeev offensively is the guy. He'd be my number 1 pick for fantasy at this point, but it's going to be interesting. Okay, that's our show, folks. A little bit of a shorter one this week. We're sorry. Maybe we'll do better next week. We usually push an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, but it's been a long week.
What would we hit here? 112.
I'm okay with that. I did a 2-hour stint on the hacks on Wednesday. I don't have another 2 hours of hearing myself talk tonight. Yeah, it was a fun show. It was a fun show. One of the guys, I don't know if you saw it, John's apartment alarm went off, and he had to leave the building for 40 minutes of the podcast. So it's just me and Bruce. Yeah.
Well,
so
sweet.
Off we went.
Was that more or less annoying than my dog's nails clacking all over the floor?
I don't. Certainly less. It was.
Poor girl.
Yeah, she's got to go. It was one of those things where you're just like, all right, I guess I'm going to be rambling today, and I didn't read the notes. I hate reading the notes on that show. I like to really go off the cuff. With our show, I'll read the notes and I'll see what's what. But on their show, I like to go off the cuff. So it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's go. You and me, Bruce. So it was a good time. We hope you enjoyed our show today. Oh, did you want to talk about the game? We didn't talk about this. I'm sorry.
Oh, the BC BU game tonight. Yeah, I was watching it. It was 2-0 in the third. Yeah, it was a good game. Jacob Fowler again. The guy is a brick wall, and yeah, he was steady. And then Ryan Leonard had a goal and an assist. A really nice wrister off the post and in. Gabe Perreault scored. That freshman line is so dangerous. if they all came back for another year next year, that they would
I
absolutely.
don't think
torch
Leonard's going back.
NCAA.
If I'm picking one that's not coming back, it's Leonard.
Yeah,
unless
maybe.
the Caps tell them not to come because they're.
I just don't think it's good for their development. To be
That's right.
To the three of them to play together.
I'd rather see one of them
time.
even go to the AHL. Like it's just you can't. We need to see you guys play with someone else. We don't know what we're looking at.
They could play like blindfolded and like hit passes probably.
It's goofy.
Know where the guy is. So, well, especially because with that under 18 program, they're together.
They've been playing hockey together longer than you and me been playing EA, buddy. Like it's ridiculous. Maybe not. I think we're pushing 20 some odd years, but you know, it's been a while since we had a game. Thanks for listening, folks. We enjoyed talking. We hope you enjoyed it too. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.